Just making sure you can help. Just making sure you can hear me before we start.
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. Just making sure you can help. Just making sure you can hear me before we start.
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you.
I can hear you.
Just making sure.
Hello, everyone. We will start our song and service first, but let us pause for a word of prayer. Father in heaven, I thank you for this day. Thank you for waking us up this morning. Please be with everybody who has joined the Zoom today. Thank you for letting us be alive to do another AY. Please help it to go smoothly. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen.
Our first song will be Love Something That You Give It Away. On a count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Love is something that you give it away. Give it away. Give it away. Love is something that you and having more. It's like a magic. You hold it tight and you don't have any. Blend is something you have so many. All over the floor. Love is something that you give it away. Give it away. Give it away. Love is something that you give it away and you end up having more. Okay, our next song will be Whose Side Am I Leaning On? On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Tell me whose side am I leaning on? I'm leaning on the Lord's side. Tell me whose side am I leaning on? I'm leaning on the Lord's side. I lean. I'm leaning on the Lord's side. I lean. I'm leaning on the Lord's side. Tell me whose side I'm stamping on. I'm stamping on the Lord's side. Tell me whose side am I stamping on. I'm stamping on the Lord's side. I stamp in on the Lord's side. I stamp in on the Lord's side. Tell me whose side am I praying on? I'm praying on the Lord's side. Tell me whose side am I praying on? I'm praying on the Lord's side. I pray. I'm praying on the Lord's side. I pray. I'm praying on the Lord's side. Our last song will be Jesus on the Main Line. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Jesus on the main line, tell him what you want. Jesus on the main line, tell him what you want. Jesus on the main line, tell him what you want. You can call him up and tell him what you want. Call him up, tell him what you want. Oh, call him up, tell him what you want. Call him up, tell him what you want. You can call him up and tell him what you want. If you're sick and can't get well, tell him what you want. Oh, if you're sick and can't get well, tell him what you want. If you're sick and can't get well, tell him what you want. You can call him up and tell him what you want. Call him up, tell him what you want. Oh, call him up, tell him what you want. Call him up, tell him what you want. You can call him up and tell him what you want. Okay, anybody has a favorite? I know I said it would be the last song, but I have to ask. So anybody has a favorite?
Maybe Love is a Flag Flown High.
Okay. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Love is a flag flown high from the castle of my heart, from the castle of my heart, from the castle of my heart. Love is a flag flown high from the castle of my heart, and the king is a resident there. So fly high in the sky, let the whole world know, let the whole world know, let the whole world know. So fly high in the sky, let the whole world know that the king is a resident there. Peace. Peace is a flag flown high from the castle of my heart, from the castle of my heart. From the castle of my heart, pieces of flag flown high. From the castle of my heart, and the king is a residence there. So fly high in the sky, let the whole world know, let the whole world know, let the whole world know. So fly high in the sky, let the whole world know that the king is a residence there. Nicole say love lifted me. I guess this is the last one. Does anybody know how the song starts again? Lean forward, lean back, to the left, to the right. Stand up, sit down, to the left, to the right. Lean forward, lean backward, to the left, to the right. Stand up, sit down, to the left, to the right. Love lifted me. Love lifted me. When nothing else could help. Love lifted me. Hallelujah. Love lifted me. Love lifted me. when nothing else could help. Love lifted me. One more time. Lean forward, lean backward, to the left, to the right. Stand up, sit down, to the left, to the right. Lean forward, lean backward, to the left, to the right. Stand up, sit down, to the left, to the right. Love lifted me. Love lifted me. When nothing else could help. Love lifted me. Hallelujah. Love lifted me. Love lifted me. When nothing else could help. Love lifted me. Thank you for your lovely singing.
Okay, good afternoon and happy Sabbath, everyone. We will now repeat our preliminaries. The AY aim.
Alexis, are you there? Okay, maybe Alexis is having a difficult time, or maybe it's the internet. I'm not sure what it is, but we'll go ahead with the aim. Oh, there we go. Go ahead, sweetie.
Okay, I'm so sorry, everyone. Okay, the AY aim, the Advent message to all the world in my generation. The motto, for the love of Christ compels me. The AY pledge. Loving the Lord Jesus, I promise to take an active part in the work of the Adventist Youth Society, doing all I can to help others and to finish the work of the gospel in all the world.
Afternoon, everyone. And thank you all for logging on to AY. I hope that you guys had a wonderful Sabbath and enjoyed a wonderful Sabbath dinner, lunch, whichever one you want to call it. Many of you may know, may not know that this month, the month of March, is International Women's History Month. And we were like, we cannot, go the whole month without having some type of focus on women empowerment, women in ministry, something. And so we decided that today we were going to focus our AY on women empowerment. And I know that you guys probably saw the flyer that says, to be one, to know one, to raise them, strong women. Today, we want to have a conversation on how we as women, and if you're not a woman, I'm sorry, but this is specifically to the ladies right now, what I'm about to say, how we as women can uplift each other and challenge each other and mentor each other and pave the way for young ladies behind us, how we can look up to the women who came before us and learn from them, things like that, how we can be mentored by them. In the past several years, I would say there's been a huge resurgence of the feminist movement. And I know a lot of people are not exactly sure where they stand on that, but it has brought up a lot of issues that needed to be talked about. And, while here in the Bahamas, we don't really see those issues on such a large scale, because, like when I grew up, the women who were in charge, the doctors, the lawyers, these are all women. And it wasn't until I went off to school, where people were saying, oh, we don't have women here, we don't have women there. And I was like, oh, I was very fortunate to be raised this way. And, even though we were fortunate to have people who were gender and look like us in these places, there's still some issues that need to be talked about. And not just issues, it's not just what today's program is about, it's also about celebrating women and our accomplishments and what makes us special. So as you continue on through the service, I hope that you will enjoy it, that you will take something out of it, and that you will also be inclined to join us for another AY for a great program. Right now, we will have Sister Damika Davis, who will come with greetings from the Women's Ministry Department.
Can everyone hear me? Okay. Happy Sabbath. As mentioned, my name is Damika Davis, as you all know. And let me start by saying, charm can be mislead, and beauty soon fades. The woman to be admired and praised is the woman who lives in the fear of God. And that's from the Message Bible, Proverbs chapter 31, verse 30. I trust, as mentioned, as everybody is enjoying the Sabbath. It's still so sunny and bright outside, you just want to just go there. I bring greetings on behalf of Sister Jacqueline Gibson, South Bahamas Conference Women's Ministry Director, as well as our very own Nikita Turnquest, Hillview Women's Ministry leader, who both extend their apologies for not being able to make this event due to prior engagements. As many of you know, the purpose of women's ministry is to inspire women to reach their potential in Christ, to train them and to deepen their relationship, their spiritual relationship with God. The purpose is also to minister with love, the empathy to the, well, let me say that again. I wrote this down because I didn't want to miss this point. The purpose is also to minister with love and empathy to the spiritual, physical, mental, and social needs of men, women, and children, showing and declaring the love of God for humanity. Understanding that there was a need to engage younger women into becoming involved in ministry in their youthful age, the South Bahamas Conference developed a GEMS organization. As many of you know, the GEMS, the acronym, stands for Girls Empowered for Ministry and Service. And I'm happy to note that our very own AY leader, Sister Tyler Raming, were among the first group of young ladies to be inducted into the GEMS when we started a few years ago. So the GEMS, the Youth Arm of Women's Ministry, is formulated specifically for ladies between the ages of 16 and 26. And that's more so that critical age that focuses in AY. So I thought that this program was much needed, and I commend you, Tyler, and your team for even incorporating this aspect of women. I know your focus is women, youth, male, female, but I specifically during this particular month want to say thankful, and I am grateful that your focus is on the younger women, women of all ages being empowered for ministry and service. The primary goal of the GEMS group is to fall in love with Jesus and to develop a deeper and lasting relationship with him. So let us be reminded that during Christ's ministry on earth, he valued the contribution of women and elevated our status. Christ's ministry lifted up women, and in turn, as women, young and old, in the church, we are empowered to lift him up in ministry. So, ladies, I ask you to join, of all ages, join the GEMS in mentoring them and helping them to reach the potential in which they need to hasten the return of Christ. I just, if you love God, just use your talents within the ministry and service to God. So again, I'd like to say happy Sabbath, and again, Tyler and your team, I congratulate and commend you for reaching out to the young ladies and the women of the church. God bless and happy Sabbath.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is now time for our trivia. I know that you are so used to seeing LaVon's face for this segment of the program, but unfortunately, she's not able to join us today. So I will be taking over. Hopefully, I do as good as a job as she does. My fingers are definitely crossed. I am just going to begin to share my screen at this time so that you guys can go ahead and get those thinking caps on and we can move. Okay, let's go. Give me one moment. Alrighty, we are ready to begin. Can everyone see the screen? You could just give me a thumbs up or say yes in the chat. Please, I just want to ensure that everyone is on one accord.
Yes.
Thank you so much. All right, let us begin. Slide from the beginning. Alrighty, let's go. So of course you already know what our slide is going to be on. Women of the Bible. Our first question. Who became the queen of King Ahasuerus? Was it Rebecca? Was it Mary Magdalene? Was it Gomer? Or was it Esther? Esther? Bingo! Awesome! Awesome. Our next question. Who was the mother of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah? Was it Azubah, Dorcas, Basemath, or Susanna? Basemath, I think. I think I heard that. Very faint voice, but let us go. No, it was Azubah. That's First Kings 22nd, verse 42. Let me take a look at the chat. I'm not seeing any messages pop up in the chat. Okay. Okay, thank you so much. Nicole is watching the chat for me at this time for those messages I may have missed. Who was the grandmother of Timothy? Was it Judith, Lydia, Lois, or Kentura? Lois, I'm hearing a very faint voice. I'm not sure if that's just me.
No.
Lois.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay. Everyone agrees in the chat. Excellent. It was Lois. Awesome job, guys. You guys are really familiar. Let's go with this question. How did Abimelech die and why? Let me first start by saying, how did he die? Let me give you a chance to answer that before we bring up the answer. How did he die? Nicole, are there any messages in the chat? Not as yet? Alrighty. Let me give you guys 30 seconds to think about it, or maybe 20 seconds. Somebody shrugged their shoulders. They didn't even know. See, you learn something new every day. This may be a learning experience for some of you. It was for me. All right. If we don't have any answers, we're going to go ahead and answer that at this time. He was killed by his armor bearer. And why? The woman of the Bez through a millstone, sorry, that cracked his skull. And this was actually a pretty cool thing that I didn't know. Ashamed to have been defeated by a woman, he said, "Draw thy sword and slay me, that men say not of me, a woman slew me." So he wanted someone. He's a funny guy. He didn't want to go down like that. Yeah, so that you can find that story in Judges 9, verses 50 through 57. Moving on to our next question. Who chose to put her life in God's hands after being falsely accused by 2 elders? Was it Susanna? Was it Sapphira? Was it Mary Magdalene? Or was it Nara? Can you say that again for me, please?
I guess Mary Magdalene, I don't know.
Yeah, someone said Mary Magdalene.
Yes.
Yes, that's in the chat as well. All right, let's find it out. It was Susanna. You can find that in Daniel 13, Daniel chapter 13. Alrighty, next question. Who was not sterile before she gave birth? Was it Michael? Was it Elizabeth? Was it Manoah's wife? Or was it Hannah? Oh yeah, Noah is the man that built the ark. Thank you, Naran. Do we have any answers in the chat, Nicole? Michael is in the chat. Yes, correct. Awesome job. It was Michael. All right. They earnestly prayed for Peter's freedom, but when a servant exclaimed how God answered their prayers, they called her mad. Who was this servant girl?
Rhoda.
Rhoda, yes.
Excellent. Miss Cooper, you know a lot of these, man. Moving on to our next question. The Jewish name for Esther is?
Hadassah.
Hadassah.
Hadassah. Is that in the chat too, Nicole? Yeah? Awesome. Good job. Next question. Under what trees did the elders say they saw Susanna? Cedar and oak, elm and olive, mastic and evergreen oak, or was it, I can't even see, ooh, elm and timber. Sorry, I couldn't see the bottom of the screen. So it was mastic and evergreen oak. You can find that also in Daniel 13. Which woman prophesied the ruin of a nation to the priest Hilkiah? Was it Hela, Jael, Lydia, or Huldah? No answers in the chat. This may be another one we have to figure out today. All right. Let me go, since I'm not hearing anyone and I'm not seeing any messages. We're going to go ahead and reveal the answer. And that was Huldah. And you can find that 2 Kings 22, verse 14. Great job, everyone. Thank you so much for participating with us. And this ends the short portion of our trivia. Thank you. Hold on, sweet boy. You wouldn't even give me time to exit with the tape.
Okay. Good afternoon once again. One important part of being a woman, being a female, hopefully it's important to you as well, is keeping up with your health. And we did not want to leave out that important aspect of being a woman. And so coming right now to give us a health tip on women's health is Dr. Vanessa Miller, a familiar face, so welcome her as she comes.
Good afternoon, everyone. A pleasure to be here with you. And Lavon gave me some sample topics, and this is the one I chose, cervical and uterine cancer. We're going to talk about some of the risk factors and prevention strategies for cervical and uterine cancer. So the anatomy of the uterus, it looks like a pear upside down. And the long tubular structure at the bottom is the cervix, through which a baby comes when the mother is in labor. So the cervix is that long, several inches long at the bottom of the uterus. What are the risk factors for cervical cancer? The first one is early sexual intercourse, or sexual intercourse that occurs in the teen years. So somebody 13, 14, 15, anywhere in the teen years increases their risk for developing cervical cancer. Second risk factor is multiple sexual partners. So if you have more than one sexual partner, you are exposed to everything that sexual partner has been exposed to, and that increases your risk for getting cervical cancer. Sexually transmitted infections, including human papillomavirus, herpes, HIV, chlamydia, gonorrhea, and trichomonas, are also risk factors for cervical cancers. And all of these are because the cells in the cervix become damaged. And when they become damaged, they are more easily transformed into cancerous cells. Human papillomavirus is the most common sexually transmitted infections that causes cervical cancer. There are many, many types of human papillomavirus, but the high risk types of human papillomavirus are the ones that are responsible for a huge, vast majority of cervical cancers. Number 4 risk factor is smoking. The tobacco, nicotine, and other poisons in cigarettes tend to like to set up hosts in the cervical cells, and that doubles a person's risk of getting cervical cancer. So recommend not smoking, obviously. Number 5, oral contraceptive use. So birth control pills can increase your risk from 10% up to double the risk of cervical cancer. And finally, inadequate pap smear screening. Now, you know, a pap smear is a thin film that is made on a slide, and the pathologist looks at the cells under a microscope. This is a procedure that is done by your gynecologist in her office. And right now the recommendations are every 3 to 5 years, starting at age 21. So if you're 21 years old and have not yet had a pap smear, see your gynecologist and make sure that you have adequate pap smear screening. If your pap smear is abnormal, or if she detects human papillomavirus, you will need screening more frequently. So how do you prevent cervical cancer? Number 1 is to wait until you are married to begin having sexual intercourse. This is because you will reduce your risk of getting sexually transmitted infections. Next slide. Staying in a mutually monogamous relationship, which means that each spouse agrees that they will not have any other sexual partner. They will remain faithful to one sexual partner. That reduces your risk of exposure to other sexually transmitted infections that can increase your risk of developing cervical cancer. Abstinence. And, you know, some people wonder, I've had sex 1 or 2 times, can I still be abstinent? Yes, you can decide at any moment that from this point forward, I want to be abstinent. Abstinence means not having sexual intercourse at all until you're within the bounds of marriage. If you don't smoke, don't start. If you do, quit now. That will also reduce your risk of getting cervical cancer. Finally, make sure that you keep your gynecology appointments on a regular basis. Have an annual gynecology appointment. Keep up with your pap smears. If you have an abnormal pap smear and your doctor says to come back in a year, make sure you come back, because that will reduce your risk of developing cervical cancer. Now we're going to turn to cancer of the uterus. Now, the uterus is that top part of the human genital organs, that section that holds the baby as it's growing. And it has the fallopian tubes on both sides that carry the eggs from the ovaries to the uterus for implantation and development. The uterus is something that can, the lining, that dark red area that you see just beside the beige or white looking area, that dark red lining of the uterus is where uterine cancer usually starts. And now let's look at what are risk factors for getting cancer in the uterus. Most people who have cancer of the uterus are older. That is from 50 to 70 years of age. That does not mean that you cannot get it younger than 50. It just means that it's more common in that age group. Secondly, more years of exposure to estrogen. And you know, estrogen is the female hormone that is produced in the ovaries. Well, there are 4 risk factors associated with increased exposure to estrogen. Early menstruation. So you know that girls are having their periods a lot earlier now. People in 9 and 10 years old are having menstrual periods. And so that means that you're going to be exposed to estrogen for a lot more years than someone who has their period at age 13 or 14. Secondly, someone who has not had any pregnancies has an increased risk for uterine cancer. Anyone who is obese or overweight or has polycystic ovarian syndrome will also develop 2 to 4 times the increased risk of uterine cancer. And finally, women who take estrogen supplements without the use of progesterone, which is another female hormone that protects the lining of the uterus. If you are having hot flashes and your doctor puts you on estrogen, but you still have a uterus, make sure that he also puts you on progesterone at the same time. The third group of risk factors include certain hormones for breast cancer treatment. The one that I'm thinking of right now is called tamoxifen, that helps to reduce the risk of recurrence of the breast cancer. However, it does have as a side effect cancer of the uterus. And finally, number 4, genetics. You may just inherit a cancer syndrome or a tendency to have uterine cancer. So what can you do to reduce your risk? Let's look at those. How can you prevent uterine cancer? The number one thing that I recommend to my patients to prevent uterine cancer is to have a healthy lifestyle. Let's look at that, what that is talking about in the next slide. So exercise on a regular basis that raises your heart rate is important for maintaining good health. And that involves good health for your menstrual cycle, as well as preventing uterine cancer. Secondly, a sensible, healthy diet. We're talking about mostly plant-based foods, mostly fresh, unprocessed foods, a variety of fruits, vegetables, grains, beans. These have been known to reduce your risk of all chronic diseases, including uterine cancer. And the way that diet and exercise help to reduce your risk of uterine cancer is through weight loss. If you are able to achieve a more ideal body weight, then your risk for developing uterine cancer decreases. Why is that? Because the fat cells in your body make something that is a cousin of estrogen, and those fat cells are making their own estrogen-like substance that stimulates that burgundy lining of the uterus that we saw in the picture, stimulates it in the same way that estrogen would. And so that causes the lining to get thicker and thicker. And over a period of time, if that lining is not shed, then you increase your risk of developing cancer of the uterus. So a healthy physical activity, healthy diet, and of course, all of the other health factors that we talk about will help you to reduce your risk of uterine cancer. And again, go to your gynecologist at least once a year. If you're having problems with irregular bleeding or unexplained bleeding, especially bleeding after menopause, or if you have polycystic ovarian syndrome where you have obesity, you may have unwanted hair growth, you may have absent or very infrequent periods, those also increase your risk factors for getting cancer of the uterus. And now I'll end with James chapter 3, verse 17, which says, wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, easy to be entreated, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Miller, for that. No, I don't think I've ever gotten a pap smear, but every time I hear these talks, it scares me into wanting to go and make an appointment. Thank you so much for that. It's very informative, and I hope that we all took from that and you are ready to go in your calendars and make an appointment with your doctor, with your OBGYN. Right now, we will have a special by Sister Nadia Rodriguez Bueno.
He promised us that he would be our counselor, a mighty God and a Prince of Peace. He promised us that he would be a father, and he would love us with a love that would not cease. Well, I tried him and I found his promises are true. He's everything he said that he would be. The finest words I know could not begin to tell just how much Jesus really means to me. For he's more wonderful than my mind can conceive. He's more wonderful than my heart can believe. He goes beyond my highest hopes and fondest dreams. He's everything that my soul ever longed for, everything that he has promised, and so much more than amazing. more than marvelous, more than miraculous could ever be. He's more than wonderful. That's what Jesus is to me. I stand amazed to think the King of Glory would come to live within the hearts of men. Oh, I marvel just to know He really loves me. When I think of who He is and who I am, 'cause He's more wonderful than my heart can believe. He's more wonderful than my mind can conceive. He goes beyond my highest hopes and fondest dreams. He's everything that my soul ever longed for. He's everything that He has promised, and so much more. More than amazing, more than marvelous, more than miraculous could ever be. He's more than wonderful. That's what Jesus is to me. He's everything that my soul ever longed for, everything that He has promised, and so much more. More than amazing, more than marvelous, more than miraculous could ever be. He's more than wonderful, more than wonderful. That's what Jesus is to me. Wonderful to me.
Thank you so much for that lovely special, Nadia. Can everyone hear me? I have put in earphones, which is the first time for everything, so that I don't cause any feedback. Can everyone hear me? Yes, no? Thumbs up, yes in the chat. Of course, you could have music.
I think Tyler's Wi-Fi just dropped. Tammy, you wanna come on in? Okay,
We're just going to give her a chance to get back on. Right now, we were going into a panel discussion. We were going into our panel discussion. I'm not exactly sure what the introductory notes were. But our panelists can introduce yourselves one by one, please.
Okay.
JP, I just saw you unmute and turn on your video so you can.
You want me to go first? Okay. Happy Sabbath, everybody. My name is Fabia Johnson. What all do you want me to ask? You laughing at me?
No.
My first time at AY.
Yeah, because she came on the camera.
Oh, okay. Sorry, not my first time at AY. Sorry. I am going to support AY a lot this year. I'm trying to do better. A mother of 3, 2 boys, 1 girl, trying to be a good mom, been employed for 25 years, and what else? I think that's about it. And I'm a child of the King.
Amen. I think I saw Tyler back on. Tyler, are you back? Okay, no, Tyler's not back. I see Annie Pearl up here.
Pearl Sylvester, a mother of 2 beautiful girls, 4 beautiful granddaughters, 3 beautiful granddaughters, 1 grandson, a husband. That's Pearl.
Beautiful Pearl. Miss Dean.
Hi, everyone. This is Anya. I'm 30, no kids, no man. Happy. Oh, nice to be here. Miss all of you.
Nice to see you too. And what were you eating when you come on? Because you make me hungry.
Ice cream.
I miss ice cream. Okay, any other panelists on?
I think Sister Angela Nazaria should be here somewhere.
Okay, Azaria, you can go ahead.
Good afternoon, happy Sabbath. My name is Azaria Wallace and I'm a student. So, yeah.
Thanks, Zari.
Okay, is Sister Angela here? Sister, I think should be Sister
Angela Cooper.
Yes.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Angela Cooper. Father for children, 3 girls, 1 boy, 2 son-in-law of the king, and that's me.
All right, thank you so
My
much.
grandson give me something on my head.
So Nicole, you would be the next panelist. You can introduce yourself.
Soul, 1 child, 1 husband, 1 job, an entrepreneur with a growing business. And Tyler is back. So Tyler, you go ahead.
Awesome. I apologize for that. You know, people like to say the devil is busy, but realistically, our internet is just a little bit trash today. you guys are ready, we're introduced to our panel. And as you've heard, we have wives, mothers, young ladies going into adulthood. We have single women. We have women who have been homemakers, they raise children. We have young professionals, the whole works. And so as we go through this discussion today, you'll see that we have a variety of different opinions, experiences that can be brought to the table. And also, we also want to open the floor up to our audience. If you have any input, please feel free to put it in the chat. As well as if you have a point that you just are burning to say out of your own mouth, you can raise your hand and you will be acknowledged. And that goes not just for our females, but also for our lovely male attendees as well. So as I mentioned earlier before, in my welcome, in the past several years, we've seen a resurgence of the feminist movement. And, you know, women wanted to be liberated and do everything mostly themselves. They want to be able to have the same opportunities as their male counterparts, being paid the same, being able to work the same jobs, X, Y, Z. And, you know, the women of today, I would say, have been hard pressed to move away, and this is a very general statement, does not apply to everyone, but majority of young women, I would say, have been kind of moving away from what I guess society's look on a woman was. And a big part of that was being a homemaker, of someone who stayed home and raised the children and cooked. And, you know, there's no good or bad here. You know, many women have gone before us to be able to fight for us to have the option to choose. If we don't want to stay in the home, we can have the opportunity to go into work. But I feel as if there are some downsides to that now. And so starting off the panel on a big bang, what do you guys think are some of the effects of us moving away from that, of women being more career oriented and not moving away from their families, but I guess not being home as much, not, I guess, being the sole person to cook in the house as much. I was talking to Tammy and she said one of the effects of this is that the girls don't know how to cook. And do you guys feel the same way?
Tyler.
No one?
Okay, let me rephrase the question a little bit. I'm not sure if Tyler is frozen or what's going on. Do you think that society has tied femininity and being praised as a woman to exclusively a wife and a mother? And anyone on the panel can ask the questions because everyone here comes with a wealth of knowledge and experience of being a woman all of their lives. So you guys are the experts and we're the ones that are learning and taking notes today. So Nicole, let me come to you second. I'll throw it to Azaria first because she's the younger female here. Azaria, do you think that society has tied the femininity and being praised as a woman to being only a wife and a mother? And that's from your standpoint that you're just.
Most definitely. I think that when you ask someone what is the role of a mother in a household, they'll be like, to cook, to clean, to do this and do that. And so, yes, most definitely, I think that they tie femininity with like doing all the household activities and chores.
Okay. So does it look like an attractive job or career for you, being a wife and a homemaker?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am, not personally. I don't look down upon it. It's just not what I feel like I would be happy doing.
You don't think that's your calling solely?
No,
Okay.
I think that like cooking and cleaning shouldn't be a gender role.
right.
Men and women should know how to do it, and they shouldn't look down upon women for not knowing how to do it because that seems misogynistic and stuff.
I remember when I was about 17, I remember I wanted to become a homemaker, stay-at-home mom and stuff like that. Until I realized it isn't all what you see. I think I watched a lot of TV back then, the I Love Lucy and stuff like that, and Bewitched, and they made it look so beautiful. Like you just dress up all day in high heel shoes and clean and I believe when you become a homemaker, you have a lot to do. So the husband goes out and he makes this list on, honey, I want you to do. Honey, I want. So he's expecting you to get up in the morning, make breakfast, do a little package of lunch, and the children call back home and say, Mommy, we have this, or we forget this, or can you come to this game? We having special worship this morning. That's a lot of work to do right there. And still you have to turn around and make dinner. Compared to you have a light breakfast in the morning. I know it's wrong. Have a light breakfast in the morning and everybody leave at the same time expecting nothing. And you go to work and it's much more easier. You come back home and everybody gets a meal. I think TV make it look completely different from what it actually is. And I think I prefer going to work than to stay at home at times.
So the salary of the stay-at-home mom is not as attractive then. The responsibilities are immense, but the attraction does not follow the salary. That's what you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Nicole?
I see a hand raised. You wanted to add something?
Oh, that's not me. That is my mom.
Sorry, Annie Joan. Sorry.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, we're switching between multiple devices here to try to stay on.
Sorry.
Yeah. So in terms of the question, I think back into maybe earlier in the past century, it was tied to. In the Western world now, not as much, but in the other parts of the world, still very much. I don't know if it is a virtue to be praised as much as it is considered your duty. It is considered what the role of a woman is to get married, children, and to take care of the home. So I think my thoughts are that it is in the majority of the world still very much tied to what a woman is considered to be, not as much in the Western world. And as I look at what women face globally, I think in the Western world, we are very fortunate to be living in this part of the world when you consider the majority of the women in the world face on a daily basis. It is almost mind-blowing that you could even a sensible quality of life. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Annie Joan. I see Angela's hand is raised, so you can go ahead. Cooper, you had something you wanted to add?
While she waits to come on,
Go ahead, Annie Joan. Okay.
I was saying while Sister Angela waits to come on, I wanted to add to what Fia said, that my dream was to be a stay-at-home mother and wife. And people would be like, often be this and be that and that. But I really wanted to be a stay-at-home wife and mother. And of course, when I met my husband, he was like, oh, no way, go to work. So that was the end of that. But I do think it's a noble calling because my mother stayed at home and she was a mother, wife, you know, so that was my role.
Thank you so much. We have a comment coming in the chat from Eric Butler. He says he appreciates his mother on how she had to be a mother and a wife, no less than he does of Camille and other women who have had to adjust to meet the times we live in. But I do look forward to a cooked meal after a long day out. And when Fabia mentioned I Love Lucy and those ladies on TV, it brought my mind back to an article that I read a while back about femininity and the role of a woman and how it's changed. When those wives used to be stay-at-home moms and homemakers, their husbands went out for the full day working. The wife had no bills. The wife didn't have to, pay no bills. She didn't have to do anything. They weren't going 50-50 on bills. So if he going 100% on the bills, 100% have all of these things, the only thing the wife responsibility was of the home. He still would give her money to go and get her hair done, give her money to get her nails too, and he was taking care of home 100% financially. So you can't expect for us to be out 50-50 and then I still doing 100% of the work at home. It's not gonna happen.
We haven't heard home mom, Nicole.
Pardon?
Back in the day, they were paid stay-at-home moms.
Exactly.
Okay, so with that in mind, right, what are some of the areas in which we as women have seen a particularly leap in growth and advancement? We know that back in the day, some professions were designed or designated just for men. But now women have started to cross over into those professions. As we had some professions, like let's say nursing, a lot of females were predominantly in that area. And now we see an entrance of the males now coming more and more into. So what advancements have we seen? And which area, let me add something else to that. And which area are you most proud of?
Okay. I'm sorry, Annie Pearl. Before you answer, if you're not speaking, could you mute your mic, please? We're getting a lot of feedback. Thank you so much, ladies. Go ahead, Annie Pearl.
Okay, what I have to say is that women have advanced in all areas. I'm proud of seeing someone like Kamala Harris becoming the Vice President of America. She seemed to be a very positive individual and very aggressive. So we as women need to examine ourselves, okay?
Yeah, and I remember.
I wanted was to.
Go ahead, Angela. Your mic is muted, Sister Angela.
I don't know, my thing is be freaking out sometimes.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I was saying, I used to love being a homemaker, staying home with my children, get them ready in the morning, get them to school, and wait on them to get back home, already cook and do all those stuff. I used to love doing it. I always prefer doing that more than going out to work when they were young. But when they're old enough where they don't really need me like that, then I said, since it's me alone home, I can go out to work. But once I have my children and they're young, I just always love to stay home and take care of them.
Okay, Fabia, you had an input?
Sorry, I was talking about the part of, as to say, we can see how women are doing better or their role has changed from nurses. Now we have doctors because all before you only was thinking only men can become doctors. And also growing up, I only saw men as principal of schools, leaders of schools, and now we have females taking over, look like the whole school. So we only had male PE teachers. Now you have a lot of female PE teachers. You had male principal. Now you have a lot of female principals. So I can even say down to construction in the morning when you wake up, you're driving to work. It's not just that male figure on the back of a truck. You also have female doing hard labor. They have corn now in the palm of their hands, turning the shovel. So we're doing quite well.
Yes, I agree. You see more females in the technical fields as well. When you look at the graduates at BTVI, electrical engineers, I know there's a local construction company that has a female CEO, and she has a lot of males employed for her. But usually that's like a male dominated field, and you see a lot more females getting into woodwork. I saw an article in the newspaper with a young lady who is doing woodwork right now. She graduated from BTVI and she now has her own business, and also like architects. So woohoo.
So may I ask?
We have a hand.
There are so many.
Joan Ramming raised her hand.
Hi. Okay. I don't know if y'all heard my last contribution or I had dropped. But I do think that there are some areas that we have advanced. Like I said before, in the Western part of the world, there is still a lot of room for growth in the majority of the world. I know in one particular area, if saying what areas are you most proud of? I think, believe it or not, and I hope and pray this is still the case, but I know at one point in time in our own conference, men were paid more than women because they were considered to be the heads of the household, whether they were performing similar jobs, times, etc., like that. And there was a change made where the salaries were made similar, as opposed to the male being paid more than the female, especially where you had, I am a male head of my household, so I get extra because I'm considered head, but you may have a single woman who is the head of her household, but she wasn't getting that because she wasn't a male. And I know that change was made, so I'm very proud of that here locally. I don't know if it's still in vogue. If anyone who is a former conference worker knows of that, you can say. But I think when we see things like this, sometimes we feel like it's not our business or whatever, but I think to help initiate change, when you see things like that, then that helps to advance, help women to advance. And that's one thing I am proud of in this.
Okay, Sister Angela's hand is up.
I have a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, okay. I was going to say, some times ago, sometimes ago, I was watching this African movie, and this lady, she was assistant DA, and the man who was in charge, he died, and they wanted to kill this woman just for her to get the position. I was and said, but being assistant is almost as if you was the president. And when we look at it now in our hemisphere here, as women, we can do anything, any job at all. We can be the president of whatever company. We do carpentry, we do mason, whatever.
Okay, I think she dropped. Anya, you can go ahead.
Okay, I was saying I'm proud of the advancements that women have accomplished over the years, especially in the field of education. However, I do feel that gender roles are becoming so much alike, it's almost hard to distinct. I think it's important for women. Yes, it's good to better ourselves and become more educated and be involved. But I just feel like at some point we have to let a man be a man. I feel like the feminist movement has become so prevalent. It's almost like there's no accountability for men. There's no need for men to be a man because a woman could do it too, that type of way. So I feel it's important for us to still hold men to a standard and accountability so that they will be responsible for things as well. I feel that women should know how to cook, men should know how to cook. A man should be able to take care of himself before getting married. He should not get married so that he can be taken care of.
He adds value.
Yes.
I also want to add, I see Uncle Eric in the chat, and I don't know if he's just invoking conversation. But I think it's important to note also, and Anya, I totally agree. On a different note, I think that, right, it's important to note that progress made, like we have seen huge strides in gender equality and the wage gap. We've seen huge strides in that. There's a lot of awareness being brought to that. But just because we have started to make those strides doesn't mean that there's not still more work to be done. You can't say, oh, but now y'all are CEOs and y'all could go to school and y'all can do this. It's like, what more do y'all want? Like, you know, just because work is being done and progress is being made doesn't mean that it has to stop there. And then another thing, an argument that I kind of see a lot that even Uncle Eric put in the chat is that we can't have it both ways. And I'm like, when does a woman wanting to be independent means that you don't still have to, I guess, be a nice guy or be a gentleman? When did we decide that? Like, you know, I don't think it's one or the other, but I think that it's more now women are able to stand up for themselves and say, it should not be on me by myself to cook or clean, or you should not have this expectation of me in your head. Like, I am my own person now. We can talk about this. I mean, you're married, and if your wife likes to cook and clean, great, but you shouldn't expect her come into the marriage expecting that that's exactly what she should do. And then it's a problem when that's not how she grew up. He also said something like men cook now. A lot of Bahamian men cook. They definitely do. So you just do what works for you. However, that should not be the expectation across the board, that just because you're a woman, this is how you will act, or this is how you should behave, or this is what you should do.
Okay. Annie Joan has a hand raised. I'm not sure if that's a new hand.
It's an old hand that won't go down.
Yes, I was trying to get them to take it down.
I just lowered it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. We were talking about, well, we were going to begin the conversation on role model and mentorship. And we always hear the conversation thrown in the air that the advancement of women today is because we stand on the shoulders of so many who have walked this road prior to us. So, whether it be biblically or otherwise, is there a woman who has placed her mark on your life and offered some type of inspiration or mentorship? Did you experience that along the way growing up?
Okay, I didn't see anyone unmute. I'll go first. I know it may sound cliche, but my role model is my mom. All of you pretty much know her. She's a really good mommy. I always tell people my mom was really good at creating that line of friend and mother. She was always someone that I could talk to. She was always someone that I can look up to. She's always someone that instilled the best morals and values in us. Even though I always tell people my mommy used to do too much, and I feel like she still is too much. But when I look at other people and the lack of too much that they had in their lives, I'm just like, thank God for my mom. She was God-fearing first, and then she taught us other morals and values that would go with that. And she showed us, people say lead by example. My mommy, last child, is about to get married, and she was never married, but she always instilled the importance of that to her children, to her daughters. So she wasn't able to lead by example like that, but she was still able to teach us that. And I think that is so important, and that's so amazing, because a lot of times people can't teach it if they haven't lived it. But I truly believe because of her relationship with God and how she got so close to him, she was able to instill that in us. And that's always something that I totally admired. And anytime I'm asked, my role model will always be number one, my mom.
My mother, like you say, is number one. I see my mother going to work 6 a.m. in the morning by herself, always with something to cook, looking for something to cook for her children, 10 children. Can you imagine going to work every morning at 6 o'clock, coming home with a bag in her hand with something, and we're all looking around to see what she's coming home with? If nothing is in her hand, we say, okay, it's no food tonight. We're going to bed without food. That's how it was with my mother. But right now, I can say things has worked out very well, that she can manage herself. We did the best that we could for her. So now she can sit, relax. She's 95 years old and she's doing excellent.
That is so good. That is good. That is very good.
I'll go next. And I think that even though Nicole started off saying it's cliche, it's true. So I'll go before my mommy, as she says, her mommy. So I'll go first. My mother has been an incredible role model for me. Most of you know she became a widow at a young age, and she raised us by herself. And some people might look around and be like, but I helped. But realistically, my mommy raised us by herself. And, we were there to watch firsthand, how frustrating that was, how sad that was. And thank God we did have close family around to help out with that. But I mean, if you look at me and my sister, I think we came out amazing, not to toot my own horn. But I used to, just like Nicole, growing up, I used to think that my mommy just was so strict and did the most. I think I grew out of that pretty quickly, but I've had some legendary meltdowns when I couldn't get my way. But now, I mean, up to this day, I think I used to look at other daughters and their moms, and I was young, and I was like, why can't we be like that, XYZ? And because their mothers just used to let them do whatever they want. But I think now that I'm older, I can fully appreciate how she raised us. And she is one of my best friends. And I don't say that lightly. And I don't say that just because people are listening. That's true. We talk about everything. We laugh about everything. I mean, it's just so much fun to be around her. And it's really a blessing to be able to say that when I have my kids, I want to raise them exactly how my mom raised me, because, you know, we're in a society now where a lot of parents were just extremely harmful and emotionally abusive to their kids, and they don't want to raise their children anything like how their parents raised them. But that's not the case for me. And so I'm grateful for that. And I look up to her so much. There are other women, but I think, yes, she's number one.
I'm basically like a little bit of everybody here. My mother raised 5 children by herself. My father passed when I was 5 years old. And when he died tragically in a car accident, all 5 of us was in school. And I said, my mother must be some ninja or something like that, where she dealt with everything. I never saw my mother cry, you know, leaving 5 little children behind. And I'm the last, and I was 5 years old, not even in the first grade yet. And I was in K5 at NCA. I'm not talking public school, but I never went to public school. So how did my mom do it? So my mom got off from work and she came home. Oh my God, I'm hungry, I'm trembling. But in her hand, she has a sandwich. Eat the sandwich. No, I bring this for y'all to eat. And when you look at it and then you hear her story, but oh, Fabia, on the family island, we came to the school at I don't know what age, but it was grade 6. She only went up to the 6th grade. I say 6th grade, what you do after that? Because, you know, when we look at our little 7th graders, they so small. Oh, we had to go and work. So she was there working all that time. And then she came over, she met my dad, and she was working and making plenty children, 5 kids. And she did a lot for us. And what she told me was that, Fabia, my grandmother brought me up, and what she gave me was all she had. And what I'm going to give y'all is better. And what I want you to give your children is better than what I give y'all. So every time you progress, you do better. And I could say today, I love my mom because I think she did the best. My husband think I born with a silver spoon in my mouth, because the other day, a couple of years ago, when we had cable, I don't have cable anymore. The cable turned off. And I started crying and crying and crying. He said, what you crying for? I said, the cable off, we can watch. And he said, come on, man, you could do better than this. I said, but you know what it is? You have one mom and everything was going. I never felt like the light turned off, the water turned off, the phone turned off. Yeah, back in the olden days, my children say, we didn't have cable, we had TV and satellite. But, you know, nothing turned off and everything was good. So I think my mom did extremely well for being a single mom. And she's my little step us to say, Mommy, I might be that old age, 40 plus, but I still have to call her. I feeling good. You go around there and say, Mommy, I can lay on the side of you. And then the pain go away a little. So I still need her. Yes, I still need my mom every minute of the day. So she's my person to go to when I need a little love.
Interesting. All very good testimonies. Okay. Azaria, being a developing young lady, do you think I don't wanna preempt you, but as a young lady growing up, is there something that you wish you knew earlier in life? And Sister Pearl, I'm coming around to you with that question too, but because she's the youngest person.
Sorry, let me help you out. Tommy, she's still growing.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yes, but she
would
would
have
have
wait a few more years to come back to that question because I'm still growing.
But she would have experienced some things now, and I think, you know, sometimes we say growing up, your mother would tell you not to do certain things. Like let's say with her, it may be studying. With her, it may be choosing specific subjects in school. I don't know, but I'm sure she would have had an experience where she could say her mom told her something and
Okay, well, my mother and my auntie taught me about peer pressure, and an experience I could use was, well, choosing subjects in school. When I hit grade 10, we had to choose these options, and my friend asked me to go into physics with him, and I was heavily considering. Even though I didn't want to go to physics because I don't really like science like that, I was heavily considering it, and I went into physics with him, and 2 weeks later, he changed schools, and I was in physics, and I was miserable. So I changed from physics to another class with music, and I really like music. I play a lot of instruments, and so from that moment on forward, whenever someone asks me to do something with them that I don't necessarily like, I would be like, okay, what am I getting out of this? So, definitely how to avoid peer pressure is something that I wish I knew early on. Well, yeah.
and that's important. Influences take you through life. You make bad decisions now. There may be consequences later, but in this case, that's not what happened. So we are thankful for that personal experience. Nicole, you can add to your experience, and then you could pull in Sister Anya since she's also young.
Annie Pearl.
And Annie Pearl can end it.
Okay, can you
because I don't see Sister Angela back.
Can you repeat the question, please?
As a woman growing up, or a young lady, you're still growing, I guess.
Yes, I am.
Is there anything that you let me give you another question. What's the best advice you have ever received as a young lady? Anya, please note the question because that's also for you.
The best advice that I received. I don't know if I could. Okay, this is the first thing that came to my mind. Always put yourself first because you cannot pour from an empty cup. And a lot of times we as women would do everything for everyone else and make sure everyone else is in order, our kids, our husband, when we at work, if we stressed out or if we tired, we go into work sick because we have so much work to do and we don't want anybody to think that we can't handle the pressure, or we don't want anyone to think that we're not doing our job properly. So we would sacrifice our health and go to work with a busting headache or something, just because we want to make sure that no one says, because you're a woman, you can't do this. So I think the best advice I ever received was take care of yourself first because you can't pour from an empty cup. And I say that to say with the examples that I used, if you aren't feeling well, you're not feeling well. If you go to work and you're not feeling well and you can't perform and you drop dead, they're going to replace you. They're going to find someone else to do that job. So make sure you're always the best version of yourself so that you can have the best output. We are not robots. Women have this superpower that we could do any and everything, and we could operate on E, and our tank would be so low on negative, and we'll still be going, and nobody would know. And because we have that superpower, it can be detrimental to us. So we need to learn how to hone that in, and not always go above and beyond just because we can. We have to learn to take care of ourselves. We have to learn that we have to be okay to make sure everyone else is okay. And one thing about me, I like to get my nails done and I like to be pampered and stuff like that. Even when I was unemployed, every 2 weeks, I was going to get my nails done. And my mom was like, girl, why you don't skip getting your nails done? And I'm like, sis, I already stressed out because I have no job. I can be stressed out and pop down. So let me just do this one thing for myself every 2 weeks to make sure that I keep myself sane because I just like to look down and see that my hands look okay. And once my hands look okay and my eyebrows, then I feel like I can face the world. So just take care of yourself first and always make sure that you're good so that everybody else can be good too, who you're trying to take care of. Okay, Anya.
Okay, I think one of the best advice that I've learned over the years is don't allow someone else's behavior or actions or the way they treat you to determine how you act or respond. Something I'm still working on because I like to pop off quick when you piss me off. But you can't allow someone's pain, who's the only thing they could do is bring you pain, to allow them to control the way you react to certain things. So that's something daily that I'm working on, because you never know what people are going through around you, and hurt people. So, and the previous question I think was, what have you learned throughout your years or something like that? I've learned that women, we hold a lot of power. We don't understand how much power we really have. If we set the standards for men, they have no choice but to meet the mark or move on. We are lowering our standards, and it's making it very difficult for the set like myself who have standards. So we need to keep the standards, because at the end of the day, they can only meet the mark or move on.
Yes. Okay. Yes. The panel was turned over to me for the last half. Well said, Anya. Auntie Pearl, very quickly, because I really do want to get your input, because I'm sure you have a wealth of knowledge just waiting to be shared. This question is for you, but other people can chime in. What is something, as you look around today, as the young ladies, I guess in society and specifically in our church that you yourself helped foster, what is some advice that you would give to young ladies who are growing up today? That tying in with the same question of what was something that you knew or you wish someone had told you when you were not just growing up, but as a woman?
Okay. Life was not easy for me growing up. As mentioned before, 10 children. Okay? What I had to do is motivate myself. My mom could not have done or deal with everybody. So I was the third child out of 10. So I had to be more or less in charge, right? So I told my mom, listen, I'm moving from home and I'm going into Kingston to go to college because you cannot afford it. And that's how I started to motivate myself. After that, making it short, my cousin invited me to the Bahamas, and I met someone by the name of Sydney Sylvester. I was married to Sydney after a couple of years because I wasn't rushing into marriage, because I'd gotten a job working for myself, helping my parents with all those children. So I said, I'm not rushing into marriage. They wanted me to work in the hospital as a nurse. And I told Miss Bowen, I don't like the blood, whatever. So anyway, a couple of years after, Sydney and I got married. And I'm letting you all know, Sydney is not the easiest person, very nice guy, but not the easiest person to live with as a husband, but he is great. He doesn't do this or do that, or you know what I'm saying? Pearl does everything. So as a young person, right, I would not rush, don't rush into marriage. Make sure that you know the person, the parents of the person you want to get married to, and watch the behavior and stuff like that. Don't rush into it. My advice, it says here, what advice should you give to other young ladies growing up now? Don't rush into getting married. It's not as easy as you might see it, okay? And earlier in life, I wanted to study medicine, but could not afford it. Believe in yourself. Always believe that you are important. No one is more important than you, okay? Be strong. Set goals for yourself in order to advance. Get your education. Don't leave it for next year. Do it now, okay? Because the moment you leave that and go this way, it's not gonna happen. So get your education, do what you have to do, and remember to pray and ask God to direct you in the right path. Marriage is not always a heap of gold, or you're gonna have problems here and there, okay? So that's my little advice. Take it easy, go to school, finish your schooling, and stuff like that. If you all get engaged, don't rush into marriage. Don't rush into marriage.
Amen. Beautifully said, Annie Pearl. Hold on 1 minute, I'm getting a lot of feedback. Okay, really quickly, I think, well, the sun has set outside, but really quickly, one question that we really wanted to touch on, and I'll say it now, and I would actually like to step off the panel and get maybe Uncle Eric's input on this, is what are your thoughts? And this also goes for everyone here, not just the actual grown women, but also Zari could chime in if you want to. What are your thoughts on raising children today, especially in light of so many social ills and the things that children are exposed to? How do you combat that? There's so much danger and darkness and just evil and terrible people out in the world. Do you, if you don't have kids, do you want to bring a child into that? If you do have kids, how are you combating that?
Is that for the women or for me?
You can start.
Okay.
I saw you put something almost like that in the chat earlier in response to Auntie Nadine, I think.
It's nerve-wracking to think about having a child in today's world when you compare it to even when I was growing up, and compare it to the stories of my mother and my grandparents when you had not as much cruel, wicked activities. Even this week, I think it was it Tuesday or Wednesday, when the story broke of that young girl student who was about to be accosted by that man, and they had to help intervene. You know, I'm so grateful every evening when I come home and I see that my children come home, because I know there's dangerous, but at the same time, I don't know if I could experience the joy that I experience now by loving and seeing my children grow up, and the heartaches and pain. I think it's worth it just to try it. But at the same time, it's much more difficult today for Camille and I versus with Pearl and Sydney or my grandparents, in my view, to raise children in this world. But you just have to do it. And then you just have to make them aware. Like, there are some things that I wasn't aware of until I was much older that we have to make Jaden and Jordan aware of today at an early age. And that's just because of the nature of sin in the world. But it's worth it just to see them grow up and to share love with them and to grow a home together. So it's worth it.
Does any one of our other panelists want to touch on that?
Just a few lines here. Vanessa and Ron is in Florida with 2 girls. And it's amazing how You know, my mind is always on them. It's on them here, but not as much as them over there. And I would call them basically every day, and ask them how they're doing. Because since the COVID started, they've been home on, what do you call it, studying and stuff like that. They're doing very well in school and everything, but you know, they're young girls, and you know, they have to go out sometimes. But if I call the house and they're not home, I say, Vanessa, where are the girls? You know, this one went to the beach with one friend and girlfriend here, and so forth and so forth. I say, sure it's only girlfriends? Yes, ma'am. You know, but it bothers you because of the way how life is now. You don't have to be doing anything wrong, but things can happen and happen so quickly. And, you know, I speak to other person's children because it's not because it's my grandchildren or my children. Every little child I see or whatever, I ask how they're doing. Tyler, them could tell you they're my children. Your son, but he runs from me most of the time whenever he sees me, but I love him. So we have, as parents, we have to help other parents because this is a funny world we're living in and things are happening so fast. And like Eric says, he feels so good when he comes home and see his children, them at home, because it's a crazy world now. So we as parents, it don't have to be my child, but I speak to other people's children as if they're mine because it's rough.
I agree with Eric and Annie Pearl. And also how Annie Pearl talked about a family being in Florida. I think about raising a young Black man in the world today. And they seem to have so many targets on their backs. And you know, it is nerve-wracking and my anxiety is through the roof when I think about the possibility of my child being targeted while Black, just because he is a Black man. So that is scary. But what I have to always bring myself back in with is train up a child in the way he should go. And when he is old, he will not depart from it. The best thing I could do is pray and ask God for his guidance and his protection over my son. God forbid if something was to happen, I hope that I will be in a position where I am at peace, at least, knowing that I have done my responsibility as a parent in rearing that child in the right direction. Because yes, some unfortunate things happen to a lot of people's kids, but I just pray God that I don't find myself in that situation, but I am going to do my role as a parent. And I don't plan on changing anything that my mother did with me because she prayed with us. She was very real with us. We talked about a lot of stuff. A lot of people don't talk to their children. And I plan to talk to my child because I want my child to talk to me sometimes. He is, she's sitting there beside me, but child I nosy, eyes one know. Well, child I nosy do, and eyes one know. And even him as a child right now, he says some things to me and I'm just like, where does come from? Like, I ain't ready to answer these questions from a 4-year-old, but that's just the world we live in now. So I try to just be as honest with him and break it down for him to understand so that he has a comfort level that he can come to me. And, you know, when it's time for a consequence, I want to let him know, this is why you're being punished. Because you don't want to just punish them and then make them clam up. No, I'm going to tell you why you're going to get beaten. You're going to have a long lecture. I just tell somebody this week, my sisters, them used to get beaten more than me because I didn't like beating, but it wasn't the beating I didn't like the lecture. My mom used to lecture for like an hour before she beat you. And I'm like, okay, can you just beat me already? Because I don't want to sit down for an hour, but you know, you appreciate it. So with God first, I think we'll be pretty okay in training up our child. I don't plan on changing anything. Even though this is a different generation, I don't plan on changing the core value and the how of how things were done, because I think I was done pretty good. And like Tyler said, I came out great.
Oh, yes. I see Sister Cooper's hand is up, and that'll be the last comment that we take. Sister Cooper?
Yes, ma'am. Sister Pearl said something about her granddaughters in the States, and whenever they go out, she always asks if it's your girl. And we always trying to make sure our daughters just hang out with pure girls. Some times ago, this lady came to me for me to do something for her and was having this conversation, and she said to me, my granddaughters always come over and their friends and them always lock up in the room. So I braced myself the way she's coming next. So she said, man, one day I just feel it go in the room. When I go in the room, the girls, I mean, they're doing their own thing. She said, if it was a boy and a girl, hang out with girls and like boys do the same. But do you know when we allow that, they're practicing stuff what we don't even dream they are doing just because it's pure girls. We send girls and our son to hang out with boys. So in this time now, we need to take a different approach. Not just because your daughter hanging out with just pure girls or your granddaughter hanging out with pure girls. It's okay. We have to make sure we teach them. This might happen. So make sure you do not allow any guy to kiss you. Like, make sure we teach them and teach the boys them not to accept stuff from another man just because he might need something I can't afford. So maybe teacher said, I realize you need a pair of shoes. Let me give you a pair of shoes. As parents, sometimes we say, boy, teacher so nice to the child and he always nice. Next thing you know, teacher have your son or your grandson in some little corner. So honestly, now it's different from then. We have to teach them and tell them plain, because that thing right there is on the high level. Homosexuality, lesbianism is on a high level, and a lot of times the girls in our house are practicing it, and we right there, okay, it's only Sharon and Jane right inside, that's okay with me. No, sometimes I if you make Jane and John in the room because she might have beat him down. But this is a different time. We need to stop allowing just our girls to hang out with girls unless we teach them everything and tell them plain. This is what's going on in the world now. So please do, as a girl, you are not allowed to make another woman touch you a certain way or allow a man to touch you a certain way. That's my 5 cents.
Here, sometimes.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Sorry, sometimes,
Very
like what
quickly,
Cooper is
Pearl.
saying, you should know the relationship between yourself and your children, okay? If your child comes to you and say, Mommy, I would like to go have XYZ along with my church sister to bowling alley or whatever. We have to have that trust with our children to know, well, they will be at the bowling alley. Sometimes my daughter takes them to the bowling alley and say, listen, I'm coming back for you all at a certain time. And sometimes Vanessa and those are there before the time. So like what you say is true, but you have to know your child. You have the relationship has to be there.
Yes, I agree. Also coming from personal experience, I agree. Sadly, I don't know if it's sadly for you guys who are still on and are looking outside at the window, but sadly we have to end here. My panelists can probably tell you that we had a lot of questions that we didn't even get to touch, but despite time change, time has still gotten away from us. And so there's more to be said. Maybe we'll do another AY on this. But that is the end of our panel discussion for this evening. Thank you so much to our panelists, especially because I had to run y'all down twice, most of you, and ask you to be a part of this panel. And right now, to close out the Sabbath that is already closed, we have our First Lady, Sister Tooth, coming to give us our Vesper thought.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Thank you. I trust that all of you have had a wonderful Sabbath day. And I would like to thank you, Tyler, for asking me to share briefly in your AY service this evening at short notice. Celebrated this year on Monday, March 8th. However, we commemorated this evening as then we were in a gospel campaign. The purpose behind International Women's Day is to affirm women in their social, cultural, political, and economic affairs. We as women of faith are ahead of this moment in that we're affirmed by God, who, in the words of Psalms 139, verse 14 says that we're fearfully and wonderfully made by God for his divine purposes. Now for our Vesper thought, and it's gonna be brief. When it comes to great heroes of the faith, we tend to think of our male counterparts, men, but the Bible also recognizes women as heroes for their character and strength. Little girls, teenagers, adolescents, I hope you're listening. I've come across 8 women in the scriptures who inspire. They are inspirational, not only because of how they lived, but because of their rock-hard faith that surmounted obstacles and yes, moved mountains. Who are these women? Mary, mother of Jesus. Hagar, Mary Magdalene, Rachel, Elizabeth, Eve, Esther, and Ruth. Although we bless God for the courage and heroism of these 8 daughters of Zion, it's very unlikely that any of us will be as popular as any of these were. But you and I don't need to be popular to do great things for God. So permit me to highlight the life of a lesser known biblical character from a place in the Bible called Thyatira, Lydia. According to Acts 16, verse 14, she was a worshiper who was absolutely passionate about God. She was also an entrepreneur whom God used to reach people with the gospel. The main ingredient that enabled her to achieve this feat was her gift of hospitality. Yes, Lydia's signature skill was in being hospitable. She was simply kind to people. She made sure that people in her midst were always put at ease and comfortable. And as a result, she helped a lot of folk respond positively to the gospel. Furthermore, she hosted the Apostle Paul and his evangelistic team to dinner at her home after she was baptized. As a result, the Church of Philippi was organized, all because of her passion for evangelism. Let me ask you, are you a strong woman for God like Lydia was? I consider myself a strong, though imperfect woman for God. Why imperfect? Because I'm still a work in progress. How did I become a strong woman? Well, I'm glad you asked. I was loved by both my mom and dad, who taught us to treat all people with kindness and respect. Secondly, I had a great example in my grandmother, a great Bible worker, Araminta Colebrook, who endured many insults and put down while engaged in soul winning. After all of that, she still emerged as the champion Bible worker of the Bahamas Conference back then. Thirdly, I would watch my mother, Rose Macmillan, provide us with first-class education, even after the death of my father. Fourthly, Mom would invite less fortunate kids for Sabbath lunch on a regular basis for many years. And fifth and last, faith in God along with much love from my strong husband who encourages me daily to be the best that I can. So I therefore encourage you all, girls, sisters, women of faith, always look for ways to use your passion and gifts to expand the church, God's kingdom of grace upon this earth. And one sure way of doing this is to simply be hospitable, kind, and nice to people. Happy, untried new week and belated happy International Work Day, and thanks for listening. Good evening.
Thank you so much, Sister Tooth. Good evening, AY, and we thank everyone for joining us this evening, our panelists and our participants in the chat. It was so nice to see you, Anya. We miss you. Everybody, have a great week. Let us pray and then sing our evening song. Thank you, Father, for the time we've spent in your presence today for another AY program. I ask that you would be with us and guide us through this new and untried week. In your name we pray, amen. Sing with me. Lord, keep us safe this night, secure from all our fears. May angels guide us while we sleep, till morning light appears. Amen. Thank you. Bye, everybody. Have a happy new week. Happy new week, everybody.